go off of my menstrual cycle and not regular time as society would have us be a slave to. Be easy to use the way that I looked to get what I wanted. I wish that men took ownership of being better lovers. And that means not watching porn at all. My name is Melina. I was born in Taos, New Mexico in June 1986.
And can you tell us what your childhood was like?
Yeah. My dad had moved to New Mexico maybe in the early 80s and he had bought land and was already building a house when he met my mom at the local grocery store. It was a co-op that my mom worked at, and I know that they met there. And they conceived me really soon after they met. So my mom moved into the house and they started building it together. And I think that shaped my early childhood because they were so busy and so focused on building that house that it was, I think, a challenge for them to have a newborn, especially when they didn't know each other very well. And then my little brother came along. My parents fought a lot, and my mom was angry all the time. And my brother had some pretty severe anger issues. So emotionally, things were not so good. And I didn't know anything different, but yeah, I don't know. I had these two kind of opposite dynamics happening. My dad was very on edge all the time and pretty hard to deal with. Although he was nice to me, so I didn't notice.
What words would you use to describe yourself socially and politically?
Well, I would describe myself as a wild woman. I kind of do my own thing, spiritual, goddess worshiping, nature lover, witch, one might say. Apolitical, well, political, but non-bipartisan. So whatever you would call that, like anarchist.
Can you talk about the influences from television and social media that you deal with and how it affects how you see yourself as a woman?
I hate them. In shows, I regularly notice that women are used as like the belittling of women is used as entertainment, and women as, the actors playing these roles just go along with it and allow it. And that really bothers me. Like, women have to shave their legs in shows or look a certain way. It's like not really acceptable not to, or at least there aren't any mainstream shows around that. Birth is always shown in hospitals. And if there does happen to be a home birth or midwifery reference, it is made fun of. It's not actually celebrated or real. I gave birth to all of my children at home, and I always knew that I would. I've never thought of being influenced by the media of, oh, I'm going to have my kids in the hospital. Like, no, I've never thought that way. So it makes me feel very separate from that whole thing, the mainstream way of giving birth, of being a woman, of empowering myself, of speaking up for myself, of advocating for myself, of being my own entity and not owned by some corporation or institution. I just feel like the antithesis of that in every way. So my life is very much influenced by not being the mainstream, not being objectified or seen as property. go off of my menstrual cycle and not regular time as society would have us be a slave to, with like schedules and calendars and appointments and things like that. I actually go by a whole different rhythm, which is very much guided by the moon and her rhythms. And I can feel there is this natural flow that is benefits me to be that way. And I feel like it's very much disserving to me to be on like regular time, like patriarchal time. I think mainstream shows would have women believe that they need to wax their full body regularly to be attractive. In fact, it's just seen as normal that that's what you do. That's not how all women are. Like most of my friends probably don't shave really. Some of them just let all their facial hair grow. It's not about looking good for a man. It's about just being who we are naturally.
How does it feel for you to know that like you are more beautiful, like you are beautifying yourself?
It feels sad. It feels like not my whole life, but maybe since 15, 16, I would say I started to perceive that my looks were my currency and to internalize that belief. And it might not just be looks, it might be looks and the ability to be charming or something like that, like personality. But later on in high school, college, after college, it would just be easy to use the way that I looked to get what I wanted. But I don't know, that's maybe simplifying it a little bit. I know friends of mine have said the same thing. And at times I've felt that it has gone deeper than that, that whoever was the supplier of the thing in exchange for it would be a value thing. Like I genuinely would enjoy those experiences, and it wouldn't just be about being beautiful and getting something in return, like currency. It would go a little bit deeper than that. Like, oh, this person sees me for my authentic self, and it's actually fun hanging out with them. But if not, then it's really not worth it. I came to that conclusion, kind of early on, because I became a mom early. So that stopped all my dating and random whatever I was doing. But yeah, that's a really interesting question.
So you mentioned that one thing you felt was sad.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other things that you felt because you were conscious of it to a degree?
Well, I feel sad now.
You feel sad now,
Mm-hmm.
looking back.
Yeah.
At the time, though, what did you feel?
Oh, I just thought it was normal, or
Okay.
just thought, maybe didn't think about it, or I just wanted to have fun. I wanted to have opportunities. I wanted to have variety. I wanted to not have a normal, ordinary life. So my motivation was to, I don't know, meet as many people as I could and go as many places as I could and explore as much as I could.
And your currency was your beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And my personality.
And your personality.
There have been times in my youth where I still got the same treatment, even if I wasn't dressing up or focused on my looks. So, looks might have zero to do with it, or not as much as I have been saying that they did, because would still attract like people who wanted to take me out and do things. And it was all like personality based, I feel like. Or maybe not all, but I've had both experiences.
So how old were you when you learned that? That you didn't need the beautifying products that you were being sold.
I learned that around my early 20s, maybe.
Okay,
That
cool.
it didn't have to be so about me, like putting on this, like making an effort for that intention. I could just be myself.
How would you define femininity?
I use the term divine feminine a lot, and that to me is our inherent essence that comes from our biology, our biological sex that has an energetic to it.
Is femininity exclusive to women?
No, but as a woman, I embody femininity in a way that I understand it better than what a man would embody. But I see that we both have both, and that men have femininity. It's just that if you're born a man, I would say you embody masculinity more than femininity, and they complement each other.
Is how feminine would you say that you are?
Hmm. I would say I'm way more feminine than masculine, but I have done a lot of work to integrate my masculinity.
It was a conscious choice.
I was like forced into it, but it was a conscious choice to accept it. Like when I separated from Matthew and became a single mom, and then I was put through court, I just had to go through so many things that felt very um, masculine, that were very difficult for me. And I think that's a normal thing that a lot of us go through, that we integrate the other opposite that we are not as much of. I mean, it's all about, for me,
Mm-hmm.
unplugging. Like the most radical thing that we can do as women and even men is unplugging from the patriarchal system that has stolen our life force and that has us connected to as its battery, and then replugging back into the earth. So anything feminine that I do to connect to my femininity is also connecting to Mother Earth. And there's so many ways that you can do that. And it's why women were burned as witches in the Inquisition, the Holy Inquisition. That's why women were, and some men as well, burned for being in our natural power, because it is a direct threat to the patriarchy.
So, what is the patriarchy in that context?
The patriarchy is an entity, a way of ruling society so that it benefits men and masculine nature more than it does feminine nature, simply because men are typically stronger, able to do more faster, so they can collect things and hoard them, thus creating capitalism. And uh, and the way that you have a balanced society is by incorporating feminine nature, which isn't necessarily interested in any of that. But through patriarchy and capitalism, we have removed the feminine equation that creates the balanced whole. In the Bible, it states that Adam was created by God and then Eve was born of his rib. And through those words and the intent behind those words, and then the perpetuation of people reading those words, it has formed the idea that men were born first and women are inferior. Women were an afterthought. Women were created to serve men, which is not true. But it stating that in the Bible has sealed that as like an archetypal collective energy that permeates in all man-led societies, all patriarchal societies. Like when it is led by men and serves men.
Or have you been more attracted to more masculine men throughout your life?
I would say so, yes. But they probably had a little bit of a balance, embraced their feminine side a little bit more. well, some of them.
Did you say that you were attracted to them because of their masculinity, or have you ever been attracted to a man that you perceived as being feminine?
No,
So you are attracted to masculinity in men, is that fair to say?
I'm attracted to healthy masculinity in men.
And what is healthy masculinity?
Being assertive and not overpowering or belittling. Um, yeah, being a really good leader, making decisions. Um, like a lot of men that I've known, they take over the whole planning aspect of a trip and they just seem to know what to do. And they can drive really well and park and like trailers and they just know how to do all this stuff that I don't know how to do. And they know all kinds of things about tools and it just seems to come very naturally to them. And they know how to build things and they know like spatially and when they're kind, like when they can do all this and be a good leader and be kind, I would say that's healthy masculinity. Yeah, like the ability to take charge and then also be vulnerable. Like maybe they don't want to take charge, or maybe they're having insecurities about things, but then being able to express that.
Is that a masculine trait, would you say, or is that just something that has to do with having healthy masculinity? It's something
I don't
not
think that
related
is very
directly to
masculine.
masculinity,
Right.
right? But that is the healthy qualifier of being masculine, right?
Yeah. It's all just a
It,
fantasy. It's not something I actually see played out very often. So maybe the healthy masculinity is not getting too bogged down in emotions when expressing something, but also not being so in the ego. So you would be able to express a vulnerability or a need or a desire. And it's just like kind of direct and simple and to the point and um, authentic.
do you think there are cultural influences that defeminize women and emasculate men?
Yes.
Who or what is behind it and for what purpose?
The people who control the planet, who are a very small group of people for whatever reason, and there could be a lot of weird backstory that maybe we don't all agree on. But I would say there are a small group of elite people who do benefit from changing and conditioning how we, the status quo civilian, perceives everything. So it benefits them to have stereotypes of masculine and feminine that warp the true inherent nature of those energies. I mean, I think there's like an ideal way that life flows when energy is just um, in sync with each other, we're like harmonious. And I would say we are far from that because of one needing to having this view that we have to compete with each other and that we hate each other essentially, like that there's such a polarity between the masculine and the feminine. It serves them for us to not be balanced. Emasculating men definitely achieves that. So whatever you can do to take away how we actually are in our authentic whole selves and warp it and corrupt it and minimize it and hide it so that we don't even know what that is. I'd say that's where we are right now.
There could be a lot of things, but one that I'm very curious about is hormonal birth control.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if you ever taken it.
I did when I was 16 for maybe, I don't remember how long, but not very long, maybe 6 months at the most. And then I decided that it wasn't for me, and I threw it away. And I didn't take it again until after I had my first son. I don't know. We just kind of decided that maybe birth control would be a good idea. So I did the copper IUD for a year, and it changed me so dramatically. My periods have never been an issue, but they were really bad with that thing. Plus, my mood. I remember just like not being myself, like going to very dark places and not being able to recognize what was me and what wasn't me. And then I put up with that for a whole year until I decided, like, never again, never again. And I would just rather, yeah, be my own self and whole and as uninfluenced as possible.
Have you ever had an abortion?
I have not. And I'm so glad. My friends who have, I see that it is something they typically don't process and don't have the space to process, and feel that they need to just wake up the next morning and go on with life as normal. And I cannot imagine holding something like that.
What's something you wish men better understood about women?
I wish that men took ownership of being better lovers. And that means not watching porn at all, and understanding the degree that watching porn has changed them and their perception of women in a very toxic way, and doing something to cleanse that out of their system, and women too. And being present and, I don't know, studying not Kundalini, but the other thing, Tantra, so that I just think a whole shift of what sacred sexuality is, what sexuality is, and that it is sacred to feel like we are on the same level, and that women are respected, that I'm respected, that I don't have to even ask or worry that that is not going to be the case, that my voice isn't important, and that they only are there to please themselves. And there's just not a lot of practice, and a lot of men can't even perform. And it's just so, it's a frustrating experience on so many levels.
Are there other things that you think that men are doing that you wish they wouldn't?
I think it starts with porn, or porn is a big part of it, that they are just thinking about themselves and not learning about women. Like, women are very complex, and we don't learn about sexuality really in school, or healthy sexuality, or a woman's cycle. I think we're taught that sex is all about whatever the man wants, and that we're not like really communicating about it, and that we're responsible for not getting pregnant. And men think that they have no onus in that, because they don't see sex as something that is a mutual experience, a reciprocity. It hasn't felt like that for most of my dating. And I think we are getting into a shift with that, but it takes so much work. And really, porn is the center of the toxicity. And raising boys, it makes me very concerned.
Anything else?
Being better listeners, just what is it that I can learn from this woman? What is it that I can do differently to heal a like centuries worth of oppression by being receptive, by being supportive, by, like, how can I empower a woman. And if a man is empowering himself, I would say that that also achieves empowering a woman. But I think the focus should be on the woman and how, like, what is it I can do to support this person, not what am I getting from this person? What am I taking from this person?
What's something you wish you understood better about men?
Why is it that they are so egotistical? why why do they think that they need to take from women rather than if they just asked, they would get everything that they wanted? Why are they so insecure? Why are men so insecure? Why are men so mean? Why are men so selfish? I'm in a space of I don't really ask myself, what can I do to better like understand and support men? I kind of just think, what can I do to have better boundaries with myself? And what can I do to support myself? And when I am with a man, that will translate, or just how do I get my needs met? I feel like that's a good place for women to be. I mean, I don't really want to speak for all women, but that's just how I feel. And the reason why I say that is because I think women are conditioned to rearrange and contort ourselves for men's needs. And so it makes sense to me that the radical healing of that would be to put ourselves first and not in a way that is, directly upsetting men or being opposed to them in any way. It's just coming into ourselves and asking, what do we need? Like, how do I put myself first? And that we have so much to come back from, and that would begin that work.
Do you think men should be doing the same thing? Or do you think that we each have different responsibilities in how we can better understand and communicate with each other?
It seems that men really um, do a lot of taking from women and benefit from things being set up so that they are the beneficiaries of the power. And so I think the responsibility of men is to kind of do some affirmative action and if not put women first, then put themselves like behind. So I do think it's healthy for men to just focus on themselves, especially in relationships. I see a lot of men trying to please, like anyone can be a people pleaser. And if they put their needs first, that might be, that might help bring in balance. But there's a part of me that thinks they have a responsibility of putting women first. I do think that there is a responsibility of men to be mindful of how they show up in relationship, and that listening and giving and being supportive are responsibilities.
But is that my question was more like, is that the same for women too, or like do women have a certain um, should women be doing something more or differently than men, or is it both our responsibility the same?
I think it's different.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I was saying is that women have the responsibility to put their needs first, and men have a responsibility to also do that, but to also put women's needs first.
So would you say there's more responsibility for the man to make the relationship work?
That's a hard one. Um, yes, then I will just say yes.
So you're saying that yes, men have greater responsibility in understanding what needs to be done in a relationship.
Well, okay, so I think we both have a responsibility to get our needs met outside of the relationship, because that is a major inhibition on the success of relationships. So, I mean, I think relationships work a lot better when we have a network.
So I just want to maybe it wasn't too clear, but like the questions are like in context, like understanding men better and women understanding men better and men understanding women better, but in the context of like a relationship, like you want to be together.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, we all need to take care of ourselves, of course, but like when it's in a relationship, would you say that men and women have an equal responsibility, or I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth. That's what I'm asking. Like, do men have a greater responsibility in making relationships better?
Uh-huh. I think that I am shedding light on a facet of the underpinnings of the success or failure of relationships as being how people get their needs met in a relationship. And so I think both parties have equal responsibility to get their needs met on their own.
From the other?
No,
Oh,
on their own and outside of the relationship for like highest success. But I think within the relationship of getting their needs met from each other, that I think men have more of a responsibility, because we have given our power. We've had our power taken for so long that, I mean, I almost don't know if
well,
heterosexual relationships are successful. I mean, are
that's the point of
possible.
this. So I want to dig in. Who took it, and how does a man give it back? If did he take it? You know, like if you and a man are starting a relationship,
Yes.
did he take it?
Yes.
He took it personally.
Yep.
Well, explain that for men watching who want to understand.
He
How did he take it, and how did he take it, and how does he give it back?
he took it because he inferred that he always had it. He it has always been the assumption that men are the owners of the power.
What if he disagrees with that? Like, what if he doesn't agree with that belief? Is it still true? I mean, you see what I'm asking? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if a man doesn't agree that he has the
I've had
power,
many men disagree, and
right?
I think that is it's still true. That's the root of our dissatisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
That is the root of our inability to
So,
communicate.
what is a man to do then if he disagrees with you, with what you believe? Like, what is a man to do?
He can continue on, like, trying to find fulfillment in this context, and I very much doubt that he will find it
With you?
with women, period.
Okay. The men that you've been with, or whether you had a relationship or not, but just men that tried to be with you, do you notice that you are less attracted when they have too much interest in you?
Hmm, kind of.
And
Because I wonder why. Like, oh, are they really actually into me, or do they just think they are? Kind of a thing.
on the flip side, do you find yourself more attracted to men that have less interest in you?
No.
So from your dating experience, that is not, you haven't been more attracted to a man because he's less interested in you?
Maybe when I was younger, and not um, aware of myself. But that is not something that I want to deal with.
Have you been married?
Yes.
What to you are the benefits of marriage?
Well, it was a fake marriage, so I don't know, but I think I'd like to be married because there's something about the tradition of it that appeals to me and the commitment. I have been a non-committal person throughout much of my life. And as I am evolving and changing, commitment is something that I really want. And I think that it adds reverence to something that to me is very sacred. Having a bond with someone that you choose and put energy into and feed it with your um, authentic love is just something really beautiful to me.
Is monogamy the only type of healthy relationship?
No, I don't think so. I just think everyone is different. And when they're acting in alignment with who they truly are, then that's the healthiest thing they can do.
What about for you personally?
I go back and forth. This is a very hard question for me. I think in my bones and who I am, that is a monogamous person. But somehow I just get very curious about what it would be like with this person and just what the experience would be like, and would I grow from that more than just being with one person. And the times that I've experienced long-term monogamy is when I had children, and for me it was very easy because my biology kept me focused on my babies and raising my children. I had no interest in being with anybody else outside of that. Um, so now that those relationships are over, that I go back and forth on that a lot. It can just be really hard to find the person who meets, like, who is everything that you want, and trusting that, I guess, and maybe doing the work to open yourself up all the way to one person and have them receive and accept that in you. I think it's possible. It takes a certain set of circumstances, and my story hasn't been that traditional to put me in that trajectory all the time.
Does the tradition of marriage mean that it is monogamous, or in your mind, can a marriage exist between more than two people?
I think I would prefer monogamous marriage, but I also think that marriages can be open and probably should be if that is what's needed and if it's agreed on.
So
And
marriage has, sorry to interrupt, but a marriage has nothing to do with monogamy.
not necessarily. I mean, I know that it does for a lot of people, and I think, I don't know, like, I'm curious about that for myself, under like experiencing true monogamy, to go through that portal. And um, how would you even have a good grasp on a healthy relationship if you skip monogamy? That's kind of my view and opinion. However, I don't think that there should be any rules that people have to stick to.
So theoretically, it could exist.
Yeah,
Okay,
in
cool.
theory.
These are what I consider to be the aspects of a relationship. Okay. One is family, the desire to have children and have a family. Another is financial stability. Third is emotional stability. Fourth is love and affection. 5th is shared values and goals. 6th is fun and adventure. And the 7th is sexual fulfillment. So of those 7, if you could only have 2 of those things, what would you choose?
Ooh. I guess I would choose love and affection and sexual fulfillment.
Okay. And if you could have 3?
Shared values.
And 4?
Adventure.
And 5th?
What was it? Family.
The family, financial,
Financial.
and emotional stability.
Ooh. Okay. Emotional.
And then 6th?
Family.
Family. And then last?
Financial.
Okay. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. If you could summarize everything you want from a man in one word, what would it be?
Everything that I want.
From a man in a relationship.
Acknowledgement. Being seen.
What do you think about AI and the real possibility of humanoids that we have to deal with?
The presence of AI informs my whole purpose on this earth and the work that I am doing to reinstate my connection to my femininity and the reinstatement of femininity everywhere overall. They are directly opposed to each other and in conflict with each other. And so, to me, the natural response is to reconnect to my womb, to the earth, to how do we empower women, sisterhood, motherhood, mother wound, etc. Because we're going in the direction of transhumanism, right?
Mm-hmm.
So human merged with machine, that femininity has no place in that.
How would you, Melina, change society today if you were the supreme ruler?
I would get rid of birth control and AI and do everything that I could to bring femininity back to the forefront. We would go back to ceremony and non-development and right relationship with the earth. I mean, it's just all about bringing back indigenous principles and getting rid of colonization. That's what I would do. Decolonize.
What does love mean to you?
Love means letting your heart decide things and not your brain. Like letting yourself do what you feel is right. And what happens when we stop overthinking things and see people for who they are and not what we want them to be. And also letting go of control of things and people and ourselves and just being present. I think when you're present, you invoke love, and it's about like acceptance and reciprocity.
And would you like to share anything with the audience about what you're doing?
One thing that I'm doing is moving in with another mom and her kids so that we have a more kind of balanced way to support each other and not be so subjected to how society wants us to be. And in that space, I plan to continue doing women's circles, and I am looking for a space in the Roaring Fork Valley where I live to start a healing center for women that men can also be included in and part of, but the focus will be women and children, and having a safe space for women who are being abused, needing counseling, or a safe space to be, or postpartum care. Everything that we aren't getting just from having such a busy society that doesn't include us. Also, there aren't that many single moms where I live, so it's really a way for me to feel supported and be able to support other women in this journey of going through court and having your children being taken away from you, and all these things that should not exist, but they do. So they could email me. I have a Facebook page. I just don't use it that much, like for my healing practice. It's called Shadow and Light Integrative Therapy. I can do healing distance sessions. I've just done a couple of those with some friends, very successful, effective. Yeah, kind of building a network for women as a way to kind of just get our voices heard and what our needs are and how can we support each other.
Great. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Super fun.